So this evening, the big questions that we are posing right ahead of our debate, what explains the Ambedkar legacy was the opposition to break the Hindutva hold. Is BJP's firefighting working? And one thing is very clear, that Baba Saheb has become the most sought-after political icons, which clearly, when it comes down to politics, serves them more when he's dead than when he was alive. And all political sides guilty of that. Let's cut across right now to our panelists this evening. Joining me, G. Kumar Nayak, Congress MP, Syed Zafar Islam, spokesperson, Bharatiya Janata Party, Deshrata Nigam, political analyst, Suraj Yengre, author, Caste Matters, Riya Singh, founder, Dalit Women Fight. Before we cut across, to our political panelists, I want to bring in Mr. Yengre into this conversation. Suraj Yengre, I'm sure you've seen the political backdrop on why we are having this debate, especially at what the Home Minister said. To many of us, and when we hear that speech, one would suggest that he really didn't say anything wrong. But when you do really speak, to the people who've lived the realities of the Dalit community, you get a sense on possibly it wasn't the best choice of words. What would you think?
Absolutely correct, Preeti. A politician from Bihar who had an audience with recently had told me that what Amit Shah recently echoed was something he would do most probably in private, especially when his subordinate from the Dalit and otherwise community would come and propose something to do with Ambedkar. He would just maybe blurt out disrespectfully with what Ambedkar, what this business is going on. He may have reacted such. So whatever that was buried in his mind had just come on tongue. And I think this is just a slippage that's going to have much more Freudian understandings of how the psyche works. I mean, let's be clear, let us not make it a slugfest of Congress or BJP. Both are equally partisans when it comes to Ambedkar. If we have to really pay attention to it, I think we have to really see how Modi's regime is going to turn out when it comes to Ambedkar's future, especially the youth here who don't have jobs, who don't have material wealth, who are really suffering, who are part of subordinate culture that represses them. In this sense, when a home minister, a person such responsible, would utter something that would really create much more ringing bells for people who would otherwise not take an offense. Now, if granted, what he said was just about aiding what he thought. But here's the thing. That's how he would look at Ambedkar and equate that in a deriding way to say, if it was God, you would have attained heaven. So what was Ambedkar? If you would utter Ambedkar, would you go to hell? And that's the kind of a Dalit kind of viewpoint that works. And again, the BJP canard is going against Congress did this, Congress did that, Congress did that. Now, Congress has had always different phases. Like BJP has had our different phases. Every political party under the new leadership has different phases. The RSS chief recently criticized the very functioning of BJP. They have been trying to signal BJP about their own overpowering views that they kind of impose, and the Mandir Masjid comment that RSS chief made, and then the kind of ruckus that it created. So let's understand, if you really have to hold Congress in showers, Preeti, then I think we'll have to look at what is it doing currently. Is Rahul Gandhi's new formula of looking at Bahujan, the matrix that Kanshiram brought forward, is it going to help? And if you look at that meter, I think Amit Shah and BJP has got a lot to lose, and certainly non-BJP forces have a lot to win. And if they continue and they persist with their mission of holding on the guns towards Amit Shah, then I think there is a moment of the downfall of BJP.
Okay. All right. Syed Zafar Islam, many would suggest that this was an unforced error by the Home Minister. And why I say that, Syed Zafar Islam, days after that particular event, that speech, which to many of us, didn't seem that there was anything wrong in that. We are still discussing it, Syed Zafar Islam. The sheer fact that an opposition which was completely in disarray, fragmented, fractured, suddenly found a rallying cause where it came down to Baba Saheb, and now you see a very different opposition going ahead. So, what went down on the floor of the Rajya Sabha matters, Syed Zafar Islam. And that's my question to you. Because, the BJP might come out and suggest that the Congress did this, this and this. But with the words of the Home Minister, then do you think that this has put the BJP politically on a back foot? That you have to feel your chief ministers to constantly come out and clarify?
See, Preeti, you have to understand that Congress party is trying to hide their guilt and misleading the people of this great country. The fact that the Honorable Home Minister has stated something which has been now quoted out of context. He was referring in a certain context he was speaking. Not he was trying to say anything about the Baba Ambedkar Sahib, but he was saying something else. But the way he was quoted is something as if he was trying to insult Baba Sahib. The fact that the Congress party has always insulted Baba Sahib right from the beginning, starting from 1952 election, where he was forced to strategize to defeat him. He was forced to resign from the Union cabinet at that time under Nehru. Then many other instances has proven that Congress has always insulted, and even the Nehru remarks against Ambedkar when he resigned, what he said to Mountbatten is something which everyone knows. That he said that his presence, his absence, will have no impact. That is the treatment Baba Sahib has been given by the Congress party at that point in time, all along. Even the person who was supported by Nehru, who defeated Baba Sahib, was given Bharat Ratna in 1970. Okay. But the icon, he was an icon, but he was never considered for Bharat Ratna. So there are many instances I can quote where they humiliated him, they insulted him, and today they are trying to mislead the nation. But we understand what we have done in last 8 years, last 10 years. Even the first time when we were in the position to support this, we supported the BJP government for giving him the Bharat Ratna, because we always felt that he truly deserved it, and he is an icon, Indian icon who should be given, but he was deprived of
Islam. Point taken. Everything that you say. All of that taken, but I'll come back to that question and I'll circle back to you, so maybe you can mull over it. Is that, was this an unforced error on the account of the Home Minister? And why I say that, the sheer fact, that we are still discussing it at this point of time, Syed Zafar Islam, because to many of us, when you hear that speech in totality of the Home Minister, it seems that there is nothing wrong, but that's, I was actually talking to somebody who studied the entire trajectory of the Indian Dalit uprising very closely. And he, actually explained it in detail. That, listen, to you, because these are privileges of the upper caste, you don't understand it. There are many times in studio when I'll turn around and say it's fashionable to, invoke Baba Sahib Ambedkar. But for many people, he is God. And therefore, the kind of traction that comment is generating right now explains the fact that the politics around it, Syed Zafar Islam. So I'll come back to you, but Mr. Naik,
you have to.
I'll come back to you, sir. Allow me.
Just 2 minutes, 10 seconds.
10 seconds,
you have to understand. Yeah, you have to understand, Priti, the party which actually supports the philosophy of Baba Sahib and has done everything possible to highlight it and bring it to the fore.
That's why I call it, that's why I also say it's an unforced error and it could be regrettable at one account. But, Mr. Naik, you had, I don't need to do it, you had Syed Zafar Islam who detailed on how the Congress belittled Baba Sahib Ambedkar. So the question I ask you, how does the party now justify its past actions while claiming to uphold the ideals of Baba Sahib Ambedkar?
This is very, very usual of BJP to start with 70 years back or 50 years back and things like that. But we should clearly understand that what we are talking about are the times when we had entire country fighting for the freedom. We had very strong personalities. We had leaders who had definite opinions. They represented various sections of the society. They were all fighting for a common vision, that's the independence of India. But their roots were different, their causes were different, the way they were approaching the entire issue was different. But what Congress did was to get all these views together on board and channel them against British Raj. That is how we succeeded in getting freedom for this country. While we are doing it, while we did that, it was totally democratic process. We can easily today also see the difference between Nehru and Ambedkar, or Nehru and Rajendra Prasad, Nehru and Maulana Azad. In number of issues, they are all recorded history of this country. This is a wonderful story of freedom struggle for this country and subsequent political formation of this country which took us forward. It is a democratic dialogue which took place between these great leaders. Then we need not be ashamed of anything that they did at that point of time. We are now looking at what is happening to this country today, whether the ruling dispensation is honoring the vision of this country or not. Let me go back to those 50 years. We had all different visions. We came back to a particular vision, but there was one stream of struggle for freedom. I will not say that they did not fight for freedom of this country. They did fight. But did they have the same vision as the others, as the majority of this country? No, they did not have. They never accepted what the Constitution sought for us. That party today is called Bharatiya Janata Paksh. So there are no way they are going to accept the vision of Baba Sahib Ambedkar, and whatever they have been doing in the last 10 years.
All right. But Mr. Naik, allow me to come up with the counter.
Action of action.
Mr. Naik, allow me to come up with the counter. The Bharatiya Janata Party didn't exist at the time, but your political outfit did. Allow me to ask the question. Your political outfit did exist. And there are multiple occasions where the Congress has belittled Baba Sahib Ambedkar, some of them detailed by Dr. Syed Zafar Islam there. I can even go ahead and quote various letters. They're all out. It's all in public domain. The one written by Nehru criticizing, Baba Sahib Ambedkar. Therefore, I ask you the question, how do you manage to uphold his ideals today while you have your baggage to carry of the past?
It is common and it's available for everybody to look at it. What Baba Sahib Ambedkar gave us in the constitution of this country: democracy, freedom of expression, right, equality, and upliftment of poor and marginalized. This has been the motto of Congress, and it has been doing it since 1952, the time it came to power. And you can see that in the most recent of the times, in the immediate Congress government, which we were in power under UPA, we were the ones who thought of marginalized and oppressed and brought something like right to education, right to information, right to livelihood. All these things emanate from the perspective of the most marginalized and deprived of this country. Please let me understand how the BJP has taken these things forward.
All right.
Diluted each and every
but you
item
still
of this
haven't. But Mr. Naik, you still haven't answered my question, but I guess that's what it is now. You can continue asking questions, but you'll never quite get an answer to that. I want to quickly bring in Riya Singh, founder Dalit Women's Fight, and Desh Ratan Nigam as well into this conversation. Riya Singh, at this juncture, where you have, parties across the political divide fighting for the legacy of Baba Sahib Ambedkar, trying to appropriate, some misappropriating it. The question that I ask you is, do you see any political party or the contemporary Dalit movement political strategies aligned with the goal of what was the idea that was projected by Baba Sahib Ambedkar?
No, I think absolutely none of them are closer to what Baba Sahib Ambedkar has thought of. And given the context, like the entire discussion as of now had been around what qualifies, what was an offense. So I think two things that Amit Shah had said. One, a reference to heaven, and one is Ambedkar, Ambedkar, Ambedkar. I think both these words, forget about the context, actually reflects that there is a deep entrenched hatred. If you are to believe that what Dr. Ambedkar had been propagating or stood for, heaven is nowhere. What Amit Shah said is an absolute contradiction and a disrespect to Dalit people. Ambedkarite people do not aspire for heaven. And there is a context to using this statement as well. Like Dalit people are supposed to be, they're born Dalits because they weren't good people. They didn't do good deeds. They didn't go to heaven. People who come back from heaven are Brahmins. So it's an absolute derogatory statement. And I think there's an history, like we were talking about Congress. Baba Sahib himself has written what Congress and Gandhi have done to untouchables. There's a history of whether, if we have to debate, that is BJP doing better or Congress doing better when it comes to Baba Sahib. I think none of them. Baba Sahib has become a need to speak about, to stand for, precisely because of Dalit people that they're talking about today. So many of our people have reached universities and reached good positions to be at, and we are forcing each and everybody to speak about Baba Sahib. Otherwise, I don't think, if it wasn't Dalits, I don't think that BJP or Congress would ever speak of Baba Sahib.
And that's Okay, I'm going to stay with me, Ria. I just want to bring in Desh Ratan Nigam into this conversation. He's someone who knows a thing or two more than most of us about the workings of the RSS. So, Mr. Nigam, to bring you in on this and exactly taking off from what I started the debate with and what Ria just said. To you and I, because it's the privilege of the upper caste, we don't see anything wrong in what the Home Minister actually said. But when you really go down and you speak to the likes, you just heard Ria encapsulating on what the sentiment really projected, then you understand the gravity of the situation.
Well, Preeti, a clip video cannot be basis of setting up a narrative. Yes, people are trying to set up a narrative that is anti-Ambedkar, what Home Minister said, but that is not the case. If you look at the entire video, entire speech of his, it is wonderful. In fact, it praises Ambedkar a lot. And to do politics around it, yes, India is a political democratic system and politics will be done on the subject. And when Dalit is treated as a vote bank, then everybody is clamoring for that vote bank. So there will be shoots, barbs flying everywhere. Now, the fact remains that his legacy cannot be questioned. The fact remains that Dalit consciousness which he created, which is being carried forward, let me tell you, as somebody who watches BJP also very closely, and sometimes I'm critical of it. But if you look at from 2014 onwards, how do you remember a person such a stalwart or great icon? You try, from Mahu, the memorial was built. London also, the places was reclaimed. Nagpur also, his Smarak was built. And even in Delhi also, the place where he stayed. 14th April, his birthday was Samrasta Divas. Constitution Day is celebrated because of him. How do you remember a person who's gone? And this is how you do it. And let me tell you, Mudra Yojana, how many Dalits are there? Have you ever thought about it? Or the Ayushman? So these are the things how you carry forward. Ambedkar was against Article 370. You please read about his speech about Article 370. BJP removed it. And the splitting of Madhya Pradesh into Chhattisgarh, that was his idea. So therefore, huge amount of work is to be done and still is being done to take that Dalit consciousness to the next level. And therefore, and let me tell you, I'll give credit to BSP also out here. There are three parties who have actually taken the legacy of Ambedkar forward. BJP, BSP and RPI. Very clearly on the ground who actually function. And yes, today BSP may be saying something else about the BJP because of their political compulsions, but the fact remains.
But Desh Ratan Nigam, I'll also say, and do answer on that as well, and I'll cut across to our other guest, that there is a bit of political commentary in also what you're suggesting, because you did speak of Article 370, and you're right, on what Baba Sahib's stand was on that. But before this, it was very clear that 370 was seen as a win of what the BJP's original manifesto stood for and what the RSS stood for.
Yes, that's fine. But to
attribute it today, and that's why I say at the cost, maybe not use the word fashionable, but that's why invoking Baba Sahib Ambedkar in the current political context actually works.
Let me answer that. Giving due recognition to the stalwarts of Indian democratic system and freedom struggle, whether it is Sardar Patel, Baba Sahib Ambedkar, Dr. Rajendra Prasad or Shastri, it is giving recognition, which recognition was not given by the earlier political parties. The idea of abrogation of 370 originated in Constituent Assembly, where it was opposed by Dr. Ambedkar. So therefore, to give that recognition and actually implement it is actually taking forward his legacy.
But there's also so much that it's not, because Baba Sahib also advocated the annihilation of caste. And Suraj Yengade, I'll bring you in on this, because the current political context, and I'm sure Mr. Nayak or Mr. Islam both would not want to comment on it, because they have very, very different, points of views. There is one which wants a caste census primarily where the OBC vote is concerned, while Baba Sahib's entire legacy stood for the annihilation of the very caste that they speak of today. You're on mute, sir.
Preeti, I think it's funny, and it's also, it's important that we cite certainly what Congress and Gandhi have done to the untouchable. So did Ambedkar, riddles in Hinduism, riddles of Rama, riddles of Krishna. So Ambedkar was unhinged when it came to observing society. He was very secular in his approach. the octagonal approach he took with multiple directions really put us and make us question, especially his comments on Gita. We ought to take these into consideration before we really place and compose Ambedkar as a critical scholar. And mind you, the Congress leadership of the then were deeply anxious and deeply insecure with the rise of Ambedkar. He was one of the most charismatic, educated people around that. And it's obviously people like Nehru and so forth, the Congress regime would have insecurity looking at him. That's no doubt. And Ambedkar himself was so clear and so loving that he didn't hold his guns when it came to criticizing any leadership for as long as it came to protecting the nation and his community. And that's the kind of love warrior Ambedkar is. He is not someone who is pandering to the views of dominant classes. And that's why when we look at Ambedkar, let us really undress this whole bicameral understanding Congress BJP. If you undress them, you may see they may wear the same briefs.
Okay.
And if we confine to this, to kind of some thoughts, we are really reducing Ambedkar. Let not BJP, let not Congress really appropriate this to the way that we're just going to create a kind of tirtha and so forth. What really matters to us is Ambedkar's program on economic empowerment. And on that position, we really need to think. Now, Modi government has left, right, and center have went on to privatize the important industries, especially the government-operated industry. And what has happened? That has really created a mass of unemployed youth. There is this new liberal regime has created substandard quality of life for people. And especially, Preeti, mind you, these are the contract workers. And I think we ought to talk Ambedkar in this sense. Unless and until we foreground this, there's no way out.
All right. Okay. I want to quickly take in some comments before I end this debate. And, Dr. Zafar Islam, I'll come to you on this. There's one approach that the BJP can take and say that this is all a fragment, which the BJP is taking, a figment of the Congress and opposition's imagination that there was an insult which was meted out to the Dalit community. Or there could be another approach saying that it wasn't meant at all. The speech was meant to honor Baba Saheb's memory, but if it hurts the Dalit community, then there needs to be amends that need to be made. Do you think maybe a more holistic approach needs to be taken now? Especially if you look at the backlash?
We are very clear in our mind. The leadership is very clear right from day one that we have always supported the ideals of Baba Saheb Ambedkar ji. And that is why Desh Ratan ji also highlighted some of the things which I forgot to highlight or didn't get enough time to highlight, that in terms of places where he lived. Today, we have made a memorial in his name. Even the Ambedkar Center in Delhi, that was pending for ages. But it is our government which has built eventually, because Congress was never interested in building that. So there are many such instances where you feel that Congress has insulted Baba Saheb, and they have never followed the ideals of Baba Saheb. But we, Bharatiya Janata Party, has always respected. And this was a debate where he has praised n number of times Baba Saheb Ambedkar Saheb. And this is also spoken in certain context. And that context is not being spoken, but it is being represented as out of context statement, something which perhaps should not have been, Congress should have not misled the people. That is something which we want to highlight, and that's why we want Congress to apologize to the nation, because what they have done in the past.
So it's going to be a fight of apology and a counter-apology. That's what, at least politically, it's coming down to. But, Mr. Nayak, the Congress has started out nationwide protests. Do you think Dr. Ambedkar Samman Saptah, which you want to now celebrate, is going to suffice for what the Congress has done in the past? Because many of it, too many, will feel like tokenism.
We were not interested in building huge statues, and this kind of a symbolism is a hallmark of BJP. Every Gram Panchayat in this country, every city, nook and corner has a Baba Saheb's statue. These are the statues which have been built by Congress and the connected parties. That is the way in which we have honored the memory of Baba Saheb Ambedkar, and we have taken forward the legacy. The stony silence when there is an assault on the Dalits, when there is a multiple assault on the Constitution, which is the gift of Dr. Baba Saheb Ambedkar to this country. That is what BJP does. This kind of a tokenism and lip service won't help. The latest in the series of insults that they have done over a period of time, especially in the last 10 years. the kind of economic policies that they have perpetuated in this country in the last 10 years have led to cronyism. This kind of economic policy also is detrimental to Ambedkar's economic vision of this country. Upliftment of the poor and downtrodden is not at the heart of their policies. It is the Congress which does that and which has been doing it. In fact, it had given a rights mandate to the entire government. Governments were duty-bound to take care of the poor by providing livelihood, employment, education, information, through which today people are empowered. If we come to power, we are not going to build a huge statue, but we are definitely going to take forward his legacy and definitely honor him in every way possible. But
there's been a change on how the Congress has conceived that legacy, because when he was alive, the Congress didn't quite honor it. That you'd accept, Mr. Nayak.
Yes.
But, Desh Ratan Nigam, to bring you in on this
I should make a point that the freedom struggle and the legacy of those times are different. Those were the times when people had different visions for this country. We had very strong personalities. Baba Saheb Ambedkar is no pushover. Jawaharlal Nehru was leading the entire country's movement. He was getting everybody together on the same platform.
All right,
but some people refused to come forward.
Do you think somewhere down the line, the legacy of Baba Saheb has got lost in political tokenism currently? Even 75 years to mark, what was supposed to be a glorious occasion, debate, dialogue in Parliament was actually reduced eventually, to a scuffle and abuse?
Well, I think the legacy was lost sometime, but it has been regenerated, rekindled, and reinvented. And it is there for all to see. But the fact remains that we are talking about post-independence. Prior to independence, one can understand there were compulsions. But post-independence, how does a Nehru campaign against Ambedkar to defeat him twice? Those are the issues, those are serious issues. And however, today...
Riya Singh, quick comment? Is Riya, if Riya Singh still with us, let's get a quick... Okay, Riya Singh, a quick comment. How do you see it all unfold politically? Or do you think it really doesn't matter? Riya Singh, are you with us? I don't think we have her. Mr. Yengri, would you want to take that question? Oh, she is with us. Okay, Riya Singh, quickly, make your point, then we'll wrap the debate. We don't have you, ma'am. There's a problem with your network. Mr. Yengri, you want to take that comment? 30 seconds, though.
That's right. I mean, it is political and it has to be political. Ambedkar is a political figure as much as he is a social and a matter of spiritual practice for some people. And as long as Ambedkar's value, especially his understanding, the criticism of the Sanatan Brahminical Hinduism comes into fold, the policies of privatization come into fold, the landlordism, feudalism that comes into fold. As long as those ideas are tagged along the political dimensions of Ambedkar, we are on the right path of Ambedkar. Or Ambedkar is just going to be another man in the frame that we're going to offer garlands, and it's not going to create a material access to us, Preeti. And so I think the departing thought really would be that, Congress and BJP can get into the boxing ring and let us enjoy the show. But for us, what really matters is not the casualty of both of them, but it matters the polity of this nation. And we have both seen both are really incapable, and their report card is really dismal.
All right, we're going to end it there. I appreciate all our guests for joining us, and we're going to let it rest. But one thing is clear, that at this point of time, Indian politics is not possible without invoking the legacy of Baba Saheb Ambedkar, especially after the Lok Sabha elections 2024.